the United States on October 6th. Well, that's when I got the email. It is not anywhere near us, and it's hard to come by. So it's very nice to be able to try this. When I say hard to come by, let's just say impossible to come by. So just got one more thing to do, and then I'm good to go. iTunes. Kill Finder. You okay?
You want that to stand as well, or do you like it?
I'd like it back to. It's going to be me. Yeah, you can set them right. Okay, turn off notifications. There it is. Yeah, no, do not disturb. Okay, good. Okay. Okay. All right. Everybody got what they need here. Everybody should have 3 whiskeys, some water for the whiskey, a pipette, and some water for yourself, and a cocktail, a beverage, or a iced tea if you wish. But iced tea can be on me, okay? Anybody wants, okay? Ladies, you all set? Good? Great. So, yeah, without further ado, I'd like to get started. Everybody at home, welcome. This is our 13th tasting since we started doing the virtual and now hybrid tastings. That started in April 4th was our first. And so there is some folks here that I think have been to nearly all of them, or almost all of them, a high percentage of them. It's great to have you again. Great to see Jeff again. And so without further ado, I'd like Noam to kick on our presentation. And just to point out again, if you just got on, don't be shy about water, guys. I really mean it sincerely. We're going with a 90 proof, then a 100 proof, and then a 126.6 proof. And I really encourage when we get to your red spot, and by the way, for those at home, green spot is your first whiskey, yellow spot is your second whiskey, red spot is your third whiskey, okay? It comes out of the Middleton Mitchell and Sons spot series that we all love. So when we get to the red spot, you'll get a bottle like this. And the nice thing about having these bottles tonight in front of me is they're a great way to see the actual color in your whiskey. And we'll get into that a little later. But I would like for you to pour half your red and then add some water. Let's try this with water first, and then we try it neat, because I really feel like once you've had 126.6, there's probably no going back. You know what I mean? So let's just, so when we get to the last one, pour half or a little less than half. And when I say add some water, if you have a pipette, I want you to add at least 3 to 4 drops. Okay, we're coming off. We want to come down into the mid to low 50s and taste it then, and then we'll taste it up at 63.6. Your tasting notes indicates on the last one that I put the palate with water first. You could also nose it for yourself with water. John and I did this yesterday, and the nose considerably different with water too. So that's with the Highland Park, the last whiskey, okay? Just one thing I wanted to point out, because very often you guys get ahead of me and pour everything ahead of me, which is what you're supposed to do. Go ahead and pour your first whiskey while I get into a little presentation of what's going on in our world, okay? For those who got on early, they were our twins that were born September 14th. Very excited about extending our family. At Celtic Crossing, we've extended our patio. On the left side of your screen, you can see our new patio floor. We did a nice Celtic theme to our patio, and we added this tent to try to offset what's coming in the winter, which is probably not so such a booming business, but we're in better shape than most. It's going to be a tough winter for small local restaurants. Help them where you can, wherever you're at, okay? What else are we doing? We're doing brunch, we're doing happy hour, we're doing trivia. Hasn't been gangbusters. I think we've had the most things we had about 6, giving us the same nice prizes. Obviously not doing bar prizes because we don't have people seated at the bar. We're doing pint night on Thursday. And we, as I pointed out there, we extended the patio, keep it covered, try to keep it heated so you can stay outside, okay? So that's what's going on in Celtic. Menu sort of stayed the same. What's going on in our whiskey world? Well, there's a lot going on in the whiskey world. It might be a pandemic, but it hasn't stopped these guys. Last week, the 34th operating distillery, production operating distillery, by definition, opened in Ireland, the 34th. So if you dial the clock back and we go back to the mid to late 80s, we had 3. Okay, so we're at 34 and growing pretty rapidly. In front of you is some of the ones we've done. We try to really pluck it out of the sky here. So some nice ones there we did in the live tastings earlier in the year. I think some of you were here for these. The Green Spot Montalena, the Powers John Lane. We had a lovely night there on the pot stills of Ireland. We managed to delve into Barry Crockett, which I'd like to do for sometime at the Christmas time. At maybe a different Middleton. I have a couple of them. On the right side, we did the Glendronach 21 and the Glenfarclas 17. Pretty awesome. We did France Bastille 1789, but we also did the French. We did the single malt and the blend. And then in Japan, we've done the Takasura pure malt. We've also done the coffee. We've also done the Yamazaki 12. So we've covered quite a bit of ground. So for virtual, look at this list. For those of you weren't here for the last one, very, very interesting. The 2 whiskeys that were vying for the people's attention were the Dunville 12-year-old single malt, the Glenlivet 15-year-old French oak finish. And I think we might have had a pretty as close as we've had to a tie. Yeah, I think it might have been like 12, 13 votes, first place votes for each. Pretty awesome. The third whiskey on the night, anybody care to remind me? Third whiskey that night? We did France, we did the French oak, we did another Irish. Thank you. Was it Michter's? Yes, we did Michter's, okay. Named after his sons, Michael and Peter Michter, okay? It actually got a couple of votes, first place. So I will tell you this, it's gonna be tough tonight. We've got a lot of contest here and we'll see if we can pull it out again. But you know, there's a fantastic Scottish, a fantastic Irish, and obviously a lovely Canadian that I picked the minute I tasted it, okay? So if you don't like it, blame me. And if you love it, thank the distillery, okay? Onwards. And this is our Whiskey of the World event. I'd love to, hopefully, pending a vaccine, we will really dial this up next year. This is what we had last year. And actually, Canada had 2 whiskeys on the night. And I did my research a little further on this particular slide. We had 40 Creek, but we also had Masterson's on the night of Whiskey of the World, for those of you who were here. Masterson's didn't get a lot of action. It was up on the stage there in the back with the bourbons. Bennett from Glacier was kind enough to come and operate that table for us. But Masterson's is a very recognized Canadian rye, and actually I think belonged to 3 Badge.
Yes, it did.
So what are we looking to do? Particularly these whiskeys tonight, you should be able to nose the whiskey with or without water. Obviously the first 2, I would say nose without. If you're going to add some, that's perfectly fine. And you'll find you almost have a front palate and a middle back palate here with these higher proof whiskeys. See if you can maybe experience that like we have here. And obviously the finish, some great finishes tonight. They're all good finishes of different lengths, but they're all nice finishes. Little cheat sheet. Ireland, Scotch, American rye, Canadian rye whiskey. Oh, Canada, must be 3 years. I will throw in there that the Canadians were the first to have a requirement of the whiskey being aged by law. The first happened in the late 1800s, 1889, I think. And the requirement was it had to sit in the cask for 1 year to be considered legal whiskey. Okay, so they were the first to do it. The British quickly grabbed onto that too, and Scotland followed suit, and Ireland soon after. So, but they were the first. Most of their whiskeys are rye. Over here on the right side of Canada, most Canadian ryes are blended and contain a large percentage of corn, not rye. Who would have thought? Well, they don't actually, they don't blend the mash bill. They don't mix up the mash bill in Canada at all. They will do corn, distill it, rye, distill it, or whatever other grain and distill it, and then vat it or marry it afterwards. So it's quite interesting. Then down below, we have our bourbon and Tennessee cask, excuse me. So tonight's tasting, Canada. Interest in Canada. A few little facts on Canada I want to share before I pass the mic over to our friend Mary is going to join us from Three Badge. Canada is actually larger than the United States. I'm sure everybody knew that. Does anybody know how much larger? Well, if you take the state of West Virginia, that is about the extent to which Canada is bigger than the United States. But interesting, if you take Canada and the US and put them together, they're just a little bit bigger than Russia. So that gives you an idea. Now, a lot of Russia is not habitable when you get up into Siberia. Canada population. The population of Canada is 37 million. What does it equate to in United States terms? I always like to compare it. You know, I compare sizes and stuff. California is 39 million and Canada is 37 million. 90% of its population live within 100 miles of the US border. Why? If you go too far north, it's pretty damn cold. The Canadian exports, if you take 2018, they had a 76 million worth of whiskey exports. Ironically, 252 million was to the United States. Until 2005, Canadian whiskey was the largest consumed whiskey in the United States as a category. Okay, bourbon took that mantle and never looked back. A couple of more interesting facts. Canadian whiskey mostly is rye. So when they talk Canadian whiskey, they generally mean rye. Prohibition did not make Canadian whiskeys. I was at a workout yesterday. One of the ladies says, well, I asked the question, what do you think made Canada whiskey? They were like, oh, Prohibition. No, Prohibition did not make American whiskey. The US Civil War made the Canadian whiskey business, because when the North and South were fighting, what did they do? They burned a lot of things down, and burning down distilleries happened a lot. Okay, if you go back and look at the US distilleries, a lot of them are rebuilt. Well, in order to motivate your men to fight in a war, somehow a senseless war, you know, when we're talking about, like, it almost equates to World War I. Hey guys, hop over there over the hill and run at them. And by the way, you don't have any bullets, right? So you literally were committing suicide. How would you get guys to do that? You would offer them a lot of whiskey. We couldn't get whiskey in the States, so where do we get our whiskey from? We went to Canada. It was a nice short hop and a jump to go get whiskey for the men and take care of them, so they would fight the battle and, for a lot of them, kill themselves. With few exceptions, most Canadian whiskey is blended afterwards. They never mix with the mash bill. It's all one grain blended afterwards. The origins of Canadian whiskey are sort of like the US, the whole immigration thing, but you have a lot of Germans, Irish, Scottish, from Pennsylvania down. If you go further north, Wisconsin into Canada, it's generally Dutch and German. So their influences are more Dutch German, whereas the US is a little more Scottish and Irish and British. And basically, originally, they used a lot of wheat, and the Dutch and the Germans got a little tired of wheat, and so they started dabbling with rye, and rye was a much easier grain to deal with, and so Canadian whiskey sort of latched onto rye and pretty much has done since. If you remember way back when we were doing Sagamore, we talked about rye was big in the States until basically whiskey headquarters moved from Pennsylvania, Maryland, over to bourbon country. Well, shipping rye is a lot easier than shipping corn or wheat that are very bulky and big. So without further ado, I'd like to let our good, I'll drop the mic off to Mary Holiday. Mary, I thank you for joining us. Hopefully we can all hear you here.
Can everybody hear me? Is it loud enough?
A little louder.
Is that loud enough?
A little louder.
How do I make it louder?
Oh, there we go. My volume is down. Right now.
I was like, it's the whole way. I don't think I can make it louder.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, sorry, I'm a little hot right now. So I'm just gonna go over what kind of, I hear an echo. Is it somebody? Is he on mute? Sorry. So I'm just, I can hear myself in your
Wondering,
screen.
should you turn off your mic, mute herself? Because we.
No, DJ, you mute your volume.
Yes, you mute. That's better. Is that better? Can everybody hear me now?
Much better.
Okay, good. Somebody said it. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little background. The company I work for is called 3 Badge. We've actually been around for a little while. We're privately owned. We're family owned. We're actually owned by the Sebastiani wine family. So we're actually on 4th generation of being owned by the Sebastiani family. So most people know them from wine and from Sonoma. I mean, you can't go anywhere in Sonoma and not see something with a Sebastiani name on it. But I'm on the spirit side. So how we kind of come with brands and everything. We did own Masterson's and Bibb and Tucker. We sold those off. I think it's been about 4, maybe 5 years now that we've sold those off. So Benjamin Chapman is actually an introduction back into the whiskey category for us. So of course, we picked the greatest time in the world to launch a whiskey, which was, February of this year. Some states actually, because of COVID, some of them are just now getting it, because some of them actually were like, when COVID hit, they're like, we're going to wait a little while. But pretty much we're in, I think, all 50 states now. There might be one that we're not, but it's just a matter of time. But back to 3 Badge. The reason we are called 3 Badge is because great-grandfather Sebastiani were firefighters in Sonoma. And so they have a active, retired, and honorary fire badges. So that's where the 3 badges come from. Also, our corporate offices are in Sonoma, and they're actually in the firehouse that grandfather Sebastiani helped build, and he was a volunteer firefighter there as well. So if you are ever in Sonoma and you see the firehouse, you can't miss it. Sonoma's not very big. We have a tasting room. You can go in and try a bunch of stuff and see the actual firehouse that they used back in the day. So that's a little background about 3 Badge. Benjamin Chapman, like I said, we did own Masterson's and Bibb and Tucker, and we sold them off. So this is our introduction back into the whiskey category. It is a Canadian whiskey. Like you said, it is 51% 10-year-old rye, and it is 49% a Canadian prairie wheat. All of the grains are grown in Canada. In the map that you had up, they call it the prairie provinces, where that's most where the grains are grown in Canada. It's actually one of the top growing regions in the world for grains. One thing different about Canadian whiskeys is what you said as well, is they are done totally separately. So the rye is made by itself from start to finish, and actually to be called a Canadian whiskey, it has to be fermented, distilled, and aged in Canada. It does not have to be bottled in Canada though. So everything has to be made up until that point of bottling in Canada. It's kind of like Scotland. It has to be made there, same with Irish whiskey. But one thing that is a little bit different, so on the rye whiskey, or in the rye part, we actually do a very heavy char, or like almost a number 4 char, or they call it an alligator char, because it kind of, once you charred enough, the wood starts breaking and it kind of looks like alligator skin. So when you get a deeper char, you get more layers of the vanilla and the spices and everything. Now on the wheat, we do a very, very light char. So you're getting it's just, you're getting very different kind of flavors out of that as well. Oh. The rye actually goes through a pot still, whereas the wheat uses a triple column still. So we're using two different types of stills as well. Then once everything is distilled, it goes into the barrels. Once it comes out of the barrels, that is when it is blended together. So nothing is done ahead of time. Everything is done separately, which is very different from how America does it. If anybody has a question, I can't see anybody, but I guess you can like chime in and ask me a question. What else? So people always are trying to figure out who Benjamin Chapman is. If you if you Google Benjamin Chapman, it comes up with a 16th century Irish lord, or there is a professor in North Carolina. There's about all these different people who are Benjamin Chapman. Benjamin Chapman is actually a mystery. He's not an actual person. He is kind of a throwback to the 1960s Mad Men guys who liked a whiskey, liked to drink, liked, the finer things in life. But we also wanted to do a whiskey that was at a price point that was pretty accessible to most people, because it's about $39.99 retail wise. So it's a whiskey that everybody can try. So that's kind of where Benjamin Chapman is, that everybody can be Benjamin Chapman. So that's who Benjamin Chapman is. He's kind of I don't want to say he's a marketing person, but he's a marketing person. But any other questions by that? It is very rare though, not to have any corn in our whiskey. And that's what I think kind of makes Benjamin Chapman very unique, that it is just rye and it is just wheat. It is 51% rye, so we can call it a rye in America. Obviously there is no corn, so you don't get that kind of sour mashy kind of flavor to it. But that is about it. Any questions? Anything else people want to know?
I have a question, and you're obviously a Nirvana fan. I saw from your shirt there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. A little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Long in the business?
I have been in the business. I started in the liquor business at the distributor here in Texas. I'm actually in Dallas, by the way. And I have been in the liquor business for about 22 years now. I left the distributor and I went and worked for William Grant for about 4 years. So I was there for the launch of Hendrick's Gin, which back then you couldn't give it away. Back then people were like, what is this Scottish gin in a squatty bottle, that looks like an oil can? Nobody wanted it. And now look at it. So if you see a brand that is, that's a story right there. Like if you see a brand that is new, try it, because you never know what's going to happen with a brand, and you never know. I mean, you might be on the cusp of something and, you can tell your friends you were the first to try it. So just like Benjamin Chapman, you're probably some of the first people to try it because it is brand new and we did launch in a pandemic. From William Grant, I actually left and I went to Pernod, and I was with Pernod Ricard for about 7 years. So I am a huge Jameson and Middleton and Redbreast and all of that fan, and left and went to, I worked for a tequila company for a little while. And then I've been with Three Badge for about 2 years, 2.5 years. So yeah. And we also do have other brands. We have a gin called Uncle Val's Gin, which is actually our owner's great uncle that passed away, and he made gin to commemorate him. We have a rum called Kirk and Sweeney. We have a mezcal called Bozal and a tequila called Pasote. And then, like I said, this is our introduction back into the whiskey, because we were out of the whiskey business, I'd say about 3-4 years after we sold off Bibb and Tucker and Mastersons. So, and kind of too, we wanted to create a whiskey that the price point was a little bit more accessible to a bigger variety of people. So And it's a very easy sipping. To me, it's very easygoing whiskey. I drink hot toddies all the time. I'm actually drinking one right now because it is about 40 degrees, 35 degrees in Dallas right now, which is very, very rare. But it is in my opinion, it makes a great old fashioned, a great hot toddy. You can drink it straight. It's a very mixable whiskey. It's very diverse.
So I've just poured myself a dram of your fine whiskey. Do you know if it has any coloring, or it's declared whether it has coloring?
We do not add, and we try to be very, we try not to, or we do not add anything. So like even our tequilas, we do not add any caramel coloring. We try to make it as pure as possible. So as far as I know, and I have asked, nothing has been added to this.
Yeah, it's a lovely color. Anybody got to try it yet? Anybody want to? So I did a tasting sheet, Mary, which is what we do every time.
I printed.
Oh, good, good. So this is 10
10
o'clock. 10 o'clock yesterday morning. I did not touch the internet. This is what me and John tasted. So we plucked this out of our you-know-where. So we'll see how it goes. I said copper to bronze with lighter legs. I said cedar, vanilla, John cedar, vanilla, me, honey, pears and apples, and I think we agreed upon, more or less, after a little while. Okay.
But to me, it doesn't.
I get that cedar. Yeah.
To me, it doesn't taste 90 proof either. Like it doesn't. You're not like, because I've tasted some 90 proof where I'm like, ooh. But
anybody
it will
smell the pears, Susan? Cedar, good call, John. Yeah, how we doing here? Anybody at home there want to chime in? So we're on the nose. I haven't touched it yet. We said cedar, vanilla, honey, pears, and apples. And to be honest, probably maybe more pears than apples, John. Yeah, but a great nose. I mean, a fantastic nose. Yeah, and very different on the palate, which I like.
To me, it is very different because there's no corn in it. And I think that kind of, like when I taste people on it, they're very shocked that they're like, there's no corn. And I'm like, no, it's just rye and wheat, which is very, very different too, because most whiskeys have some sort of corn in them. Most Canadian whiskeys, have rye, or it's a blend of malted barley and corn and maybe some wheat, but the main ingredient is rye. So usually it's very unusual to have a Canadian whiskey that is just rye and wheat. So.
Thank you. Moving on to the palate. I always tell everybody just disregard a little, the smallest taste you can taste, and then taste it from there. I like to chew it. Taste it however you want, drink it however you want, shoot it if you wish. Just remind you that I made that statement one night inside in the Ballymena room. We were drinking Highland Park 25, and the guy shot it. I was like, oh my Lord, you just shot Highland Park 25. That is, yeah, it was done before I could say stop. So no, please don't shoot it. Don't shoot any of these whiskeys. So on the palate, love some help here. We talked about caramel and lovely sweetness, probably from the rye, and coconut. And John was adamant, and I the pistachio. We were trying to figure out what the nut is. Is anybody else getting that sort of nut on this? Mary would love your take.
Pistachio. I haven't heard that one.
You get us early in the morning here, we'll give you 2 surprises.
See, I get a little bit, almost like a little
around some nuts.
I get like a sweet almond, but that's me. Also, I have a cold.
Almond was mentioned, remember? Almond. Like sweet almond. We were bouncing around different nuts.
Like how almond extract almost tastes. It's got a little bit of that.
Anybody want to chime in here? Earthy. And you guys? A lot of sweetness. Yeah. Caramel. Yeah. Price, Mary, approximately.
Approximately, it's going to be, I would say, in the $39.99 to the low 40s. So that's like I said, it is a very reasonably priced whiskey. And that's kind of what we wanted to do after Bibb and Tucker and Mastersons is, come out with a whiskey that maybe is a little less expensive than Bibb and Tucker and Mastersons were, that can be accessible, that everybody can kind of try. So, yeah.
I mean, once you're under $50, but if you're under $40, like this is what we're going to be talking about for the holidays, right? We talk about this. You could be drinking Redbreast 21, which I love. I love when I'm not buying. Or you could have basically on the current day's market, you could have 9 bottles of this, 8 bottles of this. I mean, that gets you through quite a considerable time between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
And
maybe not the whole way, but
But it makes a really good old fashioned. It makes a really good Manhattan. It makes a really good cocktail as well.
And a lot of your liquors are destined for that business, right? The cocktail business.
Yes. We
the mixed business.
Try to make everything. We don't have anything in our portfolio that is outrageously expensive, unless it's like, an extra añejo tequila, or we actually have an XO with our rum that's 25 years. So that gets into a little pricey, but pretty much our whole portfolio is, we like to consider it affordable luxury. And that's what this is. It's an affordable luxury brand. So.
Just a quick mention on the finish. We came up with dry, short, more caramel, black pepper, and then something like grapefruit, but maybe not. Anybody? Travis, in the finish? Pepper? I said pepper because I didn't know it was black or white.
I do get I get some spiciness. Sometimes I get a little bit like a cardamom. But it's the rye. The rye brings the spiciness, and then the wheat brings a very kind of mouthfeel, like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a
it has a nice mouthfeel to it. It really does.
And that's the
it doesn't taste like it's 90.
Yeah,
it does not taste like it's 90. It doesn't go down like it's 90.
Yeah, the rye gives the spiciness, and then the wheat comes in and gives you a really good kind of mouthfeel, and kind of balances it out. And it doesn't, it is 90 proof, but it doesn't taste 90 proof. It's not like, whew, it will warm you.
Awesome. Any questions come in there? Definitely smell the apple pears.
There are. And if people don't know, it is made, we do get it from the Alberta distillers, where actually Bibb and Tucker and Mastersons were made. A lot of Whistle Pig is actually made there. There's actually a lot of brands that have whiskeys that come from Canada that people don't know about. So sometimes I tell people, turn the bottle around and look on the back and see where it actually was made.
So Jim Murray, I think we've referenced him a few times. He's either brilliant or he's completely mad or he hasn't a clue. Whichever. Jim Murray voted his 2020 whiskey of the year was Alberta Premium Cask Strength Rye at 65.1 APV. Just a reference, it just literally, I think it was announced recently. The brand is at the Beamton Suntory stable, and they also provide whiskey. That's the Alberta distillery you're talking about, whiskey for Whistle Pig and Mastersons, right?
Yes.
So interesting. It does have a World Whiskey Award with Jim Murray, which is a fairly, it's a pretty high honor when he gives it Whiskey of the Year, not just a category now. It's not a Canadian Whiskey of the Year. It is Whiskey of the Year for everything in 2020. He comes out with a new book every year, so we're ending. His book's arriving for 2021 in time for a holiday gift, right? And so he'll have all his 2020 whiskeys of the year. So you'd be going shopping for presents.
And we've gotten some, obviously, it's just launched this year. So we're just getting ratings and things like that. So we've gotten, I think it's 95 from Tasting Panel, 92 from Wine Enthusiast. I think it was 91 from the Ultimate Spirits Challenge. Wow. So we've been getting a lot of good ratings lately. So, because some people are like, oh, I haven't seen any. I was like, well, sadly, we decided to launch when COVID started. So it's taken a little while longer to get ratings and feedback and things like that. But we've gotten really good feedback on it. So, and the packaging is beautiful. I have to admit, they did a great job with our packaging as well. So.
I do love the bottle. I know it's right over your right shoulder there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful bottle.
We have Zoom backgrounds made for our company, but the problem is the chair. It's like we're sitting on the floor. So we're trying to figure out a way to where we're actually sitting in the chair.
Awesome. Lovely bottle, lovely label, nice color. I do like it. I've drank it a few times this past couple of weeks, nighttime before bed, lovely sipping, a nightcap. I'll just put it in perspective for you. I used to have whiskey tastings on a regular basis here. There'd be a rep from one of our local distributors who's traveling with them, who's in town, and I would always make time, as much as I could, make time. I would say I have done, since February, I might have done 3. Yeah. When I typically might be doing 3 a week. So how is the what's going on in the world affecting your business?
I am probably one of the only suppliers I've actually been on a plane. I've gone to 2 states and that's it. I went to Colorado and I went to, I did a mezcal dinner in Oklahoma. And other than that, I've pretty much been home because it's just, like you said, people aren't wanting to meet with people. I have noticed though that our sales are pretty much okay, because people are, they're still buying liquor. They're just going to the liquor store because, bars and restaurants were closed down for so long. So yeah. I don't know. It's been different. There's a lot of Zoom meetings. There's a lot of, dropping off bottles and little containers for people to try and then going, calling them later to see how they liked it and things like that. There's not a lot of person to person, meetings.
Yeah, so. And that might be the way it's for a while, but want to thank you very much for joining us. I hope you stay on and enjoy our next whiskeys. Yes, if anybody has any questions, we'll circle back and drag back to the mic.
I was very proud of myself that I got them in the right order. When I texted you, I was like, what is the order? And I put them in the order that I thought, and I was like, I hope I get it right. So I got it right.
So typically on the tasting sheet, they're usually up here. It says green, yellow, red. I labeled the whiskeys, but I ran out of room and I wanted to keep it on one page because it looks so much better on one page than doing the back. So that was me. I kind of screwed it up for some people who are new to the tasting. Welcome, Bennett. You're very welcome. Bennett, our local rep that actually had me taste your whiskey, just joined the call. But welcome, Bennett. But yeah, thanks again. And we're going to step on to our next one. Thank you for your time and really enjoyed your whiskey. And please enjoy the next 2. What I need everybody to do now is drink some water, cleanse your palate, Mary commute. And we're going to step on to, and typically this would be my finishing whiskey. I'm a little biased. It's Irish, 2. It's hard to come by. And so without further ado, I want to get into it. Waterford Distillery. Now, we have covered a lot of ground here over the last 6 months. We've touched on Echelanville when we done Dunville a few weeks ago, or no, what, 6 weeks ago. We did West Cork Distillery. We did Dingle. We did Clonakilty. So they've all come to the market like as new distilleries in Ireland over the last 2 years. And, they need to make noise. If you want to sell whiskey, you got to have good whiskey, good branding, good marketing. You got to get it out there for people to try it. And you got to have a network of mouths that one likes it and the next one tells somebody else and tells somebody else. My introduction to Waterford whiskey is through Tim in Dublin at James Fox's. And he'd been talking about it for months, all the way back to March. And he was like, Deej, Waterford, Deej, Waterford, Deej, Waterford. I'm like, what's the big deal? Yeah, it's a really big deal. The founder, Mark Renier, founded Brooks Ladish in 2000. He then, in 2012, became very upset when the board of directors voted to sell the company to Remy Cointreau, French conglomerate. Okay, he said, "Let's stay small. We're making progress." Anybody had Brooks Ladish? Brooks Laddie, it's the correct pronunciation. Brooks Laddie. You had it. Okay, so nice. P.D. Islay has won a lot of awards, especially 9, 10, 11. Go back and look. They've won it all. Okay. Well, he was very frustrated at the selling of the company, and he couldn't stomach it. He was very vocal about it. I really wanted us to stay the course, be true to whiskey. We're on a project here. We're on a mission. And the mission is to create a whiskey where we know each part of the whiskey, the ingredients. We know where it comes, what farm, what type of barley, what type of yeast, where's the waters. He was all into transparency. So in 2012, he walked away, sold out, gathered a nice chunk of change, somewhere in the region of about 10 million. And throughout his period in the early 2000s, he had really taken a shine to South East Ireland. He actually had proclaimed it to be the best place in the world to grow barley. Southeast Ireland. A lot of these distilleries that came to the market, like Clonakilty, West Cork, they all have a story. 700 years of farming on this land and blah, blah, blah. And I came into this sort of experiment, which is Waterford, thinking this is just another story, another project this is the real deal. Waterford are the real deal. So in 2014, after opening a brewery in Waterford, Guinness, were making an extract for Guinness to send around the world. Well, they decided after spending 40 million and building a very advanced brewery, they wanted to shut it down. And this guy in the waiting in the wings, Mark Renier, bought it closed the deal and started the negotiations in 2014 and closed the deal for 7.2 million euros in 2015 and went straight to work. He basically said, our brewery is halfway to whiskey. And we have the most technologically advanced brewery in the world here. We leave everything that is here. We'll add a couple of pot stills he bought in Scotland, and we have for ourselves a whiskey making business. But he wasn't done there. His whole thing is transparency. His 3 keystones of business are, and I think they're in your notes, terroir, what I'll talk about later, which we're going to get into, transparency and traceability. Now, what he says is the Irish whiskey business is a bit of a Wild West routine. You know, you ask someone what's in the whiskey, they tell you blah, 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 but they don't really tell you. You ask them what's it aged in, they don't want to tell you. He believes in everything, lay everything out at the table. So much so, he started a project of basically retaining farmers to grow the barley. So what did he have to do? Well, first, so he wanted to do a single farm origin edition of whiskeys. He has now got 86 farms involved. The farmers have an award every year. The farmers are now, they have skin in the game. They get a little piece of the whiskey product at the end. And it's fascinating. I've read and watched video and read stories about this guy. It's absolutely fascinating. So he goes to Dalton's. Dalton's are the grain producers or the grain destination. All these farmers drop their grain off at Dalton's. Dalton's prepares it for a lot of the distillers of Ireland. Well, he wasn't happy with that because the grain from his farm that he had recruited would get mixed up with other grains. So he went to Dalton's and says, I want to build my own warehouse. And they built their own warehouse of these sort of bays, almost like if you went to a storage facility. You have all these bays, and each bay can take one very large, couple of tons of grain in each bay. And they're all labeled and they're all, dated. And I'd like John to step forward in a moment just to me explain what I mean. When I first said, transparency and traceability, and I looked at the whiskey, and if you look at the whiskey, I'm looking at it with a light. Geez, I'm like, whoa, looks awful light in color. Well, it's light in color because it's only spent 3 years, 11 months, and 18 days in barrels. Okay, I know it's. Why didn't you wait another 12 days, and it's a 4-year-old whiskey? Mark Raniero will tell you it's not the age I'm into; it's when the whiskey's ready. Okay, and once again you think someone's blown smoke up here. He's not. This is every bottle of whiskey has what is a passport number. And I would like the option for a minute to share the screen. Just I'm going to share the screen here. And I'm going to go to, I want you to watch this, okay? So here we're in terroir. Terroir is a term used in France. Going back, Mark's history is in wine. Mark's dad was a wine broker in London. Mark, as a 13, 14-year-old, had to be able to give his father noses and palates of wines or he was a bad boy. So Mark was into Loire Valley wines at a very young age. Mark owned a winery, as we would say, but a chateau in France. So he's been there, seen that, done that. He wanted to take the whole idea of terroir to Scotland with Brooks Laddie and now to Ireland with Waterford. I need the Ballykilcavan one if we have. Yeah. So he brought it with him, and everyone saw, what's this guy at? And he was you can watch videos. He's very outspoken. He basically says, I don't trust the others of what's in their whiskey. He's maybe have changed the game of making whiskey. And let me enter the code, and we'll just dive in a little bit. Could you give me the code, please?
It's F002 E0102.
The only thing I know is 02 is the batch number, okay? If you're a whiskey collector, 01 is the one you wanted, okay? This guy did whiskey for Europe and Asia, and then he also did North America. North America arrived on October 6th. If you were ahead of the game, you could have picked up a few first batches. I got a list through Tim. I got a list of places that were picking up the whiskey in the US. One of the last ones I called was Compass Liquor in Washington State. And they were like, yes, we have Waterford arriving in a few weeks. I'm like, is it sold out? He goes, no. I said, I would like 4 organic, 2 Ballykilcavan. They're different. When I say Ballykilcavan, that's the farm. When I say Banno Island, that's the farm. That's that one, okay? And that's a 1.2. So I managed to pick up 8 first gen. So what I want to do now is sort of build a collection, have all the first releases, which is 4. The original is the organic, which is the Gaia, which is the sort of the main one. And then you have the farm series, which is a single farm series. So I'm going to enter the code here. Hopefully it takes it, even at this hour of night. Those of you who are on early. So here we have Ballykilcavan. If you want, you can watch a video, okay? I'm scrolling down. Key facts. Get my glasses back on here. The grower, David Walsh Chems. The farm, Ballykilcavan. The addition of this whiskey, 1.2, APB 50. How long was it in the barrel? 3 years, 11 months, and 18 days, which is young. We have never tasted a whiskey this young, right? Never. We don't touch anything, less than 10 years? I mean, we did a 7-year-old there, but we haven't done a lot of. Most of what we do is 10, 12, 15, 20, 21, 25. A number of bottles now for market, Europe and Asia, because these were sent by Tim. Bottled July 2020, distilled week 8, 2016. Do the math, okay? Harvested 17th of August 2015. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's a lot of information. But watch this. Scroll down here. Here's all about the farm, okay? A lot of information. Dates back to 1639, okay? If you want to listen to the farm, you click on this button here. It'll give you a 12-hour window of what it sounds to sit in the field where the barley came from, and you can listen to the birds, and as the sound gets louder in the daytime. Very interesting, I thought. We scroll down here. We have when they grow the barley in 15 and 16, and that's all about moisture levels, protein levels, rain, inclement weather, freezing conditions. That decides when it goes, it's sown, when it's taken in. Here we go. Sown 19th of March, 2015, harvested 17th of August, arrived at the cathedral. What is the cathedral? Cathedral is the additional building that Waterford built at Dalton's in Kilkenny. It's called the cathedral because that's what we want to honor. We want to honor the barley that's in the whiskey. It's all about the barley. Now, up until now for us, it's all really been about the cask. What's the whiskey aged in? 60% or more of our flavor comes from the wood it's aged in. This is all about the barley. All right, let's going down. Arrived at a distillery 15 days after it went for malting for various reasons. Fermentation started on the 4th, it ended on the 9th. They have a very long fermentation, okay? It goes into great detail when you talk to them or when you go on their website. The filled at the warehouse that's when the casks are filled. When the marriage of the casks, it took place, what do we say? 3 years, 11 months, and 18 days. Takes us to February 5th this year. Sent for bottling July 8th. Arrived in the United States October 6th. So we're talking about a very recent. Let's keep going. You can watch the video on David on the right there. Great video. The woman on the left is one of their masters at Waterford. She's kind of their agricultural expert. She talks about soil, composition, the science, a lot of science involved in this. Moving down, you can look at the farm and zoom in. Going down further, the soil composition levels. Going down further, here's what the soil is, what type of rock it sits on. You can look at a description of the soil. The elevation of the land in that particular spot is 253 feet above sea level. The average sunlight during the period of when it was in the ground is 5 to 5.5 hours. The type of barley is Taberna. The yeast is pretty consistent, always Maori. Fermentation time is usually 20 to 40 hours. Some of the others, this is 150 hours of fermentation. Once again, I'm still going, more BS. Taste the whiskey. So if I were listening to me now, I'd drink some water, clear my palate. When I tasted the whiskey, I went, essentially a 3-year-old whiskey tastes this good. So wait up a sec. Let's keep going. Appearance. This is their notes. I didn't really use this. I can't even pronounce some of the words, but anyway, so I'm not that, Shakespearean. But going down further, the cask, check this out. Look at this. Every cask has a number. It has where it came from, U.S. first fill, Kelvin cooperage in Kentucky. I scroll down. These are all the casks that are involved in this whiskey. Okay, every single cask, not just one of the casks. Then we go down further. We have the French Vin du Natural. That's a fortified wine that they use for Ballykilcavan, okay, and the others. Then we have a premium French at the bottom here too. So smaller percentage of those, the larger percentage of the whiskey is in first fill, ex-bourbon, U.S. barrels that were made in Kelvin cooperage in Kentucky, okay? Now, the only difference with Ballykilcavan and the other farms, for some reason, the other farms have virgin American oak as well, has a small percentage, like 15 or 20%. For some reason, Ballykilcavan doesn't. And of course, that drew up the whole conversation. Well, if you're really going to compare different farms from different parts of Ireland to ascertain, well, the barley is it, right? So the barley from a different part of Ireland with more sunlight and more moisture is a little bit different than the barley here. Shouldn't you age them all in the same layout, right? So we get apples for apples. This is the only one that was a little bit different. I tasted this with you guys because Tim says he thought this was the best of the original 4, okay? Other than the Gaia, which I haven't tasted. So going down further, we're not done yet. Here's the breakdown of how it's aged. 55.5 first fill, 22. You see the virgin US unavailable at this time. It's in the others, it's used, don't know why. 22% premium French, 22.5% Vin du Natural, okay? So basically, what's on the bottle is a passport number. what's on the website is exactly where, what, how the whiskey is made, and really opens up this whole conversation of what if every distillery was doing this? What if he were, because he tears apart the Irish whiskey business. You can listen to videos of this guy and he goes, yeah, it's the Wild West. It's a bit of a joke to me. I don't know what's in my whiskey. So we might be entering a new era of transparency and traceability. And he started this at Brooks Ladish. He really didn't get the sign on from his fellow board members, and he was kind of ousted with the sale. Of course, the sale was probably 100 million to Remy Cointreau. And if you look it up right now, it's one of their premium brands. Still doing great. And we did it way back. We did it inside. We did it with Macallan, the Macallan Rare Cask Edition. And all I remember was a girl who was a food scientist stood up and says, remember? That's right, yeah. And she stood up and said, I love all the whiskeys except that one. And I said, which one? She goes, the Brooks Laddie Organic. She goes, it makes me want to vomit. Do you remember? She said, everything else is amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've just read about Brooks Laddie's, the next thing in Scotch. But honestly, if you go back and you study Brooks Laddie, they're doing really well, with or without Mr. Mark, okay? So anyway, without further ado, I thought we might taste it. There's lots of more stuff. The Guinness factory, 40 million, sold it for 7. He got a steal. His major investor is the former major shareholder in a company called Elan. Anybody know who Elan is? Pharmaceutical maker in Ireland that Trump was calling out. U.S. company had moved their headquarters to Ireland. Trump was saying, hey, that's, violating, move your headquarters back. They didn't. They're still headquartered in Ireland. He was the CEO. He sold out, moved out, made 500 million in the deal. He's the major investor in Waterford. So Mark has got deep pockets, is making a lot of noise. Comparatively speaking to Clonakilty and Dingle and West Cork and Echelonville and all the new ones that we mentioned, the 34th one being this past week in Donegal, he's got the most potential to carry this through and turn this into a behemoth. And I've just been blown away, one tasting it, the other reading it. But without further ado, very light in color. Let's get to the whiskey. Wondering if I left anything out there. October 9th, not 6th, the 9th. Very clear. I mean, when I saw the whiskey, I was like, are you kidding me? Oh, no. But then when I tasted it, drop of water before you taste it, guys.
Just to add one thing, DJ.
Yes, sir.
I can't remember what year it was, but many years ago, Fred Smith was Fortune Magazine Businessman of the Year, I think.
Yeah.
And the phrase he coined that year, which every business picked up on, was if a business can't measure something, they can't control it. If it cannot be measured, it cannot be controlled. That's exactly what this guy's doing. He's measuring every single aspect and facing it. And he now has the ability to go back and control it.
Well, he lost control of Brooks Laddie, right? He was kind of coming in from the outside. He was his idea in 2000.
Like you said, they were mixing the grains. He didn't know which farm was producing which. He can now trace everything back. It's measurable, so he can control.
So your tour of Waterford, when summer all of us go to Waterford, will involve this. You'll go to the distillery early morning and get a tour of what was the Guinness Brewery, and Arthur Guinness, his nicely drawn picture, if you will, his mural is still on the wall. You'll get a tour there, and then you'll visit their warehouse, and then you'll visit some of the farms that were within, 20, 30, 40 miles. So it's an all-day thing to go to this distillery because it's all about the barley. And you cannot have a tour of Waterford unless you get to the farm. It's all about the barley. So drink plenty of water. Now, this also, for me, this is a little like Method of Madness. For me, when I tasted it first, that was the first parallel I had, that Method of Madness we did, which is a little bit of an acquired taste. Your first sip is going to be a little bit, you know, but to each their own. Not everybody's going to love it. All right. But I do. I do. I really love this. So. Mm. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's get back to our composition. What do we say here? Very clear. I said, looks like gin. With a light golden hue, indicative of a young age. On the nose, I got heavy earthen grass. I think everybody should get that, right? It's very oily. Very oily. You can look at it and see the oil through this whiskey, okay? For me, a good thing. I like oily. I really do. Yeah, I was sour and I was thinking sort of in that mintish area, right? Ginger mint area. What else did I say? It's got lots of apples. Did anybody get the cinnamon, I guess? Does anybody get a spice on the nose? Pepper? We were arguing about this yesterday, right? Yeah. I have it just on the nose, just on the nose. If you haven't finished, you should try maybe add some water. Might suck. Oh, you did? Okay.
I took one small drink, it was okay. And then I took the second drink, and I didn't like it at all. The first drink, I was like, oh, this might be okay. And then the second drink was like.
Now, just to rephrase again, we're talking about a whiskey that's less than 4 years old. You know what I mean? And this is going to put its gloves on and fight a 15, 16, 7-year-old red spot or a middle Method of Madness that maybe 12 plus years of whiskey batted together. So it's, it's in a, what seems to be driving up the price is the very low supply. You saw that 9,000 bottles a batch. I paid about $90 a bottle. $90, beautiful bottle. I mean, if anybody wants a beautiful cork, beautiful. Is there an empty one there? Grab an empty one if there's an empty one.
Oh, it feels empty. It's just heavy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bottle. For those at home, it's a stunning bottle. It almost looks like a wine bottle. Yeah, it's got a lovely pop when it comes off. It's got almost like a magnetic cork.
I'll just say, I was thinking about it today too, that everyone's talking about the purity of whiskey that made the glass. So,
Nam, I'd like to get back to our slideshow if you can. Thanks, sir. Okay. I mean, I never even mentioned the warehouse, but the warehouse they built 14 miles from the distillery is state-of-the-art. Closer to the sea on the southeast coast, lots of air from the ocean, tremendous ventilation, massive. They have built, I think they're on to facility number 5 now. They've filled the first 4, they're on to number 5. Remember now, these guys are going to be turning it over. They're not talking about aging these whiskeys very long. They want to do short maturation times and focus on the field, the barley, where it comes from, the origin, and, so. What else do we get? I'm going to taste it. Now, a little hot at the first one, right? That first taste, especially after the last whiskey. And I took quite a bit of water. I do like the dates. I like the dates in there. Love some feedback here. What do we think, Susan, Travis, John, folks?
DJ.
Yes, sir.
This one seems really interesting. I know you mentioned that the guy, he came up in a wine background.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
he's really bringing that into his whiskey making process, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Terroir and vintages.
I mean, he's going to have a tough time in Ireland because he sounds like, as we will call him back home, a London pompous.
Yeah.
That's what he sounds like. He's very, very spoken. He'll tell you what he thinks, and he thinks everybody else doesn't know what they're doing. So he's got that London, fucking London, from London. He's got that about him, okay? But he definitely has a resume, and he's done it at Brooks Laddie, and he's probably going to be successful here. Why? He wants to put everything in its place.
Yeah.
Where did the barley come from? Where do the barrels come from? It wasn't on our little passport there, but they have the driver that picked up the barley from the cathedral and drove it to the distillery, the license plate number. They have a book on every whiskey in this library. Every single whiskey has a book. You can have who was the driver that morning? What was the license plate of the truck? What time did it leave? What time did it? I'm talking like we're getting down to major details here because he obviously wants to amplify that the others are not doing it. You know, tell us what's in your mash bill. Tell us what's in the whiskey. Sorry, we don't reveal that. So it may lead to across the board things becoming a little more transparent. Okay, getting back to our tasting. Any comments from folks at home there? Being a little bit quiet there. I bored you to death. I have actually. Jason said I love the oily feel. I do too. On the palate. Lots of barley, right? Lots of barley. I'd even go from instead of chocolate tonight, I'd say white chocolate for me tonight. After having the first one, I'm thinking more chocolate, apricots, and dates. I just think the finish on this for a 3+ year whiskey is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Cost $90, Philip. Compass Liquor Store, not too far from you, I think. It's I was trying to Snohomish to the town it's in. I did a Google map. I think I sent you an email. You might want to pop over there. But their stuff arrived I called them, what day is today? Thursday. I called her on Monday. It had arrived over the weekend, and they were boxing everything to go out, and it was all getting shipped via California, and I should have my 8 bottles probably early next week. But they did say they still had some, which I was surprised. They were the only one that I called that still had some. Maybe pandemic related, but $90 is the answer to your question. What are we thinking here? This is the closest thing to gin you're going to get from Marsley, right? It's the youngest. You like this better? Jeff, off the 2 you've had, Mr. Jeff, off the 2 you've had, what do you like better?
Oh, there's no comparison.
Waterford? Okay. Off the 2 we've had over here, and you like either? You like the first one? Good. Second one? Second one, okay. Waterford? Interesting. I always get a little smile on my face when Ireland kind of gets a few fucking, interesting back there. They don't have, this came up on a little chat room I'm on. My friend in Australia, Desi, who lives in Sydney, and he lives on Manly Bay, if anybody's been to Sydney. He sent a message out, hey guys, we've got to do our Christmas shopping at home this year. We got to. They don't have any, there's no help. There's no support. Little town in the west of Ireland, near Galway, for anyone wants a reference point. And they're struggling real bad. My little town is about to be decimated. They just got shut down again a week yesterday. They're shut down through Christmas, probably through February. It's bad. So, we're do what you can, but I think my Christmas shopping is going to be purchased in Ireland during the month of November, put in a box and shipped to the States. In fact, I think anything I get from my staff here, I always go get an Amazon card for them. That's going to Ireland. they're going to get something from home. So it's just so hard for them. They don't have any out. They're literally they just wither away and die. So it's tough. My brother was telling me half the town is already closed and gone forever. Town of about 10,000, a little smaller than Waterford town itself. Waterford's about 25, 30,000. Not a big place. 100 kilometers south of Dublin, due south, straight down from Dublin. Lovely place, obviously renowned for Waterford Crystal. Waterford Crystal, boom bust. Started in about 1870. Went out of business basically after the English company that bought them in 2009 went bust. So they went into foreclosure. Waterford bought their piece back and reopened as Waterford Crystal again. And now they have a much more slimmed down, efficient company that's doing very well. And my family, we love Waterford Crystal. So when I go home, if I'm going through, duty free, there's always going to be something for someone Waterford Crystal. Love Waterford Crystal. There's no comparison. They do an amazing job, hand blowing all this stuff. A lot of it with lead-based glass, which a lot of the other companies have moved on from, the more nouveau companies. So we talk about the finish at all. Nice finish, decent length, malt. I couldn't figure out the spice. Anyone want to? White on the back. White. Anybody else? It's funny. We tasted this yesterday morning, and we're black pepper.
Black pepper on front end is white pepper.
It does now. I can categorically say, yeah, white pepper this time. Not yesterday morning for whatever. Maybe it's because we tasted that bloody Highland Park first, which is like, it's the next one. It's rocket fuel. It's not a lot left in your tongue. Public health warning: if anything happens to you after Highland Park, Celtic Crossing, basically we nullify ourselves of any liability for the tasting of Highland Park Cask Strength Release number 1. I would strongly encourage, pour it, add some water, and save the neat for the very end, okay, when we get there, okay? So, anything else online? I love it, Tyler. We like Benjamin Chapman better. Good for you, Tyler. Good for you. All right, back to our little show here. Oh, actually, we're going to, what time is it, 30? I was going to take a 5-minute break. Would anyone like that? I'd like it. We keep it strictly to 5 minutes. So let's get back here. 8:18, we're back on, okay? 5 minutes. Enjoy your Waterford. We'll give you a live stream of the river while we're taking a little break. At midnight, it'd be nice. The daylight, in Ireland right now, they had daylight savings last Saturday, so we have a week of 5 hours instead of 6. Summertime, 4 a.m. Right now, probably was 9 a.m. It's probably back to 8 a.m. Kids don't go to school in Ireland until about 8 o'clock for the reasons of that reason. That's looking across at the distillery, across the River Suir that flows through the town of Waterford. Back in 5. Thank you.
Anna's going around for the desserts now, okay?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Do you want one as well?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Can I take one home?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'm enjoying tonight.
Yeah, it's nice and mellow. It's good.
I mean, you're.
Yeah.
This is what you think? What you think of Waterford?
away from me, so my dreams was
All right, we'll get back to it. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I managed to nice glass of water and then a little drop of sweet tea, and I'm good to go again. Yes. Yes. Thank you. So, onwards and upwards. I'm not saying I always leave the best for last, so I'll let you guys decide that. The main reason for having this whiskey show up last is because it is a 126.6 proof, okay? We've done this distillery before, an amazing distillery. I will visit here. I was planning to go this past summer. Obviously, it didn't happen. It is located 10 miles off the coast in northern Scotland, out where the Atlantic Ocean bumps into what's that other ocean to the right there? It's the Gulf of, what's that other ocean that bumped together there? Anyway, super cold. The North Sea bumps into the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, lots of whirlpools. For those who don't know what they are, we talked about it with Art Beg. Lots of whirlpools, rough seas, lots of wind. I'm told that if it's a 40-mile-an-hour wind, it's pretty much normal every day. So if it's, their trees don't grow, they grow sideways. There is no tall trees on the islands of Orkney. What is Orkney? It's, Orkney is it's an archipelago set of islands off the coast of Scotland, 70 in total, inhabited 20. Incidentally, the most inhabited one is also the largest one. It's called mainland. Quite ironic that folks from the other islands thought this island was the mainland, but it's actually called Mainland Island. On the island of mainland lives approximately 22,000 of the population of 36 of all the islands. So not highly populated, probably had a major gyration in their population numbers during summer months. You would get a lot of tourists out here. Size, approximately 205 square miles, 10 miles off the coast. Earliest settlers were Neolithic settlers that date back to 6,800 BC. The Norwegians ruled here. It's actually closer to the Arctic Circle than it is to London by, I think, 30 or 40 miles, incidentally. So the Norwegians ruled for about 400 years, shall I say 500 years, from about 900 to 1468. And when the King of Norway pledged the islands, the Orkney Islands has a security for a dowry payment for the marriage of his daughter Margaret to James III. Well, the dowry was never paid, so the security was taken by the Scots. And the island, the words they used were, the island was absorbed by Scotland in 1472. And let's dial on into the 1700s. It was a major hub of illicit distilling, was Orkney, and its capital city of Kirkwall. It was Magnus Junsen, who's the founder of Highland Park, dates back to about 1770. The distillery's official opening date is 1798, but they didn't actually get their license. And on the bottle it says 1798. Didn't actually get their license till early 1831, I believe. It's called Highland. It's called Highland Park, not to be confused with Highland whiskies, because it's not a Highland whiskey, right? It is called Highland Park because an area town called Hyde Park was the area town where the distillery was built. So it can sometimes get confused as a Highland whiskey. It's not. It's an island whiskey. Where does it fit in? It fits in somewhere between. It's not Islay, right? Islay is that peaty, right? Once you've tasted it, you can taste nothing else. As I said the other night when I tasted an Ardbeg from a friend that came, or one of my in-laws that came over, if you want to quit for the night, just have yourself. Who is this? Oh, the rugby. Yeah. Just have yourself a really peaty whiskey, because you're either going to drink some more peat or you're done. If you want to close out for the night, drink a really, what did I have? Ardbeg, Ugadal. Yes, I had the Ugadal last Saturday night, and it was the last thing I drank. Now, my normal progression is Irish, a Scotch, another Scotch, and then maybe a pot still, right? Well, throw an Islay in there. You're not drinking a pot still. You're not going anywhere else. You're going to have some more Islay, or you're going to bed. So it's a good way to finish your night is with a nice Islay. This is not Islay. This is an island whiskey, a region unto itself, one of the 6 we've always talked about, unto itself. And to be honest, Highland Park is a distillery that really defines itself because it truly is grass to glass. And they pick their peat from a certain bog. And I brought some peat with me tonight for the purpose of this whiskey. This is from Achill Island in the west of Ireland. Wouldn't be unlike the peat that they're using to dry the barley and terminate the germination process at Highland Park. This smells beautiful when it's on fire. If I could have a supply of this and have a fire out here, this is what I would have. Nice and solid. It's basically earth over several thousand years compressed together to form this. We cut it, we dry it. I did it as a youngin' with my brothers and my dad. We had a plot. We cut our own bog, and that's what we brought home. And we've used this to heat our boiler, to heat the radiators. Tell them I'll kick them out. Okay, good. Rugby guys. Okay, just getting a little bit of attention here for the rugby guys driving us nuts. So that's the peat. If anybody wants to feel it, smell it, they can, okay? So Kirkwall seems like a beautiful town. We'll get there hopefully this summer. We'll go with Tim. We have a plan. What makes the town? Farming, fishing. It's a major hub for seals. You believe that? Orkney Islands claim they have 15% of the world's population of seals around their borders, okay? Incredible, absolutely amazing. A couple of HMSs sank there in World War II. It's got a couple of ships that are sunk and haven't been touched, and it's now a diving site. And heavy on tourism, fishing, and of course whiskey, okay? What else could I say? It's also the home to the world's shortest flight. Westray, which is a small island, and Papa Westray, 2 of the smallest islands on Orkney, fly a plane between the 2 islands. The flight goes a couple of days a week. The flight, which travels 1.7 miles or 2.7 kilometers, lasts only 1.5 minutes in the air. I ask you, can you get a drink off the flight attendant on that one? I don't think so. So, getting on to the whiskey, okay? His name is Gordon Motion. He's the master distiller for Highland Park. The project here was to round out their portfolio. They wanted to have, they have the 12, the 18, they have the Viking collection. They have the 25, the 30, and the 40. And they didn't have a cask strength whiskey. This was released September, I think, September. And I was assured I was getting a few bottles here through, I have to put a word out, through Glacier. They promised we'd get a few bottles. Well, I'd already advertised the whiskey tasting. These bottles were in fact bought in a liquor store in New York and sent down for us to taste. So, like I said, if you want to pour half in, then take your pipette, or if you don't have one at home, let's stay on that slide for a second, because we're going to talk a little bit more about this. And I would say 4 to 6 drops into half of that, right? Half of that, 4 to 6 drops. We're trying to get it down to where we can maybe experience some of the flavors, maybe mid to upper 40s, low 50s. Definitely no more than 6, no less than 2, okay? Public health warning, if you drop dead after this, I am not responsible. So on the screen here, we have an aerial view of the distillery. We have the 14 to 16, and I think the cash strength. And then we have the, what I call the Viking collection bottom right. And then we have the pot stills bottom left. Where does this fit in? It fits in with Oban. It fits in with Talister. It fits in with those moderately peated whiskeys that they have a couple of things they really are claim to fame. And I have my initials on it is HPCCS. Hand-turned malt gives it a great balance. Peat from the Hobbister Moor peat. It produces a heather, quicker, clean burn and gives the Highland Park whiskey a very distinctive flavor. So they have their own bog. We call them bogs. This is called turf. You want to call it peat, we call it turf. We take it from the bog. We cut our peat, or we cut our turf from the bog. We stand it up, we dry it, we bring it home. We do it all ourselves. They have their own, which would be windswept. Remember we said that wind, no trees, lots of heather. Heather grows well in those conditions. We okay? And so that's their hand turn, their peat. Then on to what they call is cooler maturation. Well, it's colder than any other part of Scotland, right? It's way out there in the North Sea, Atlantic Ocean. Mind you, it never really gets really cool. It's cooler all year round. 60 in the summer, 45 in the winter would be fairly good act. And you can look all this, you can look all that up. Then they have what's called cask harmonization. And that's the basically combining and moving of all the different whiskeys into different casks during the maturation process. And they claim that to be their differentiation from other scotches, okay? And last but not least is sherry oak. Oak, Spanish and American oak, adds richness and flavor. That is pretty much exclusive to Highland Park. Like I said, January 24th, 2019, we tasted the Highland Park 25. That expression, we talked about the ultimate spirit contest in New York. Mentioned it with Mary earlier, where they got a 91. The Highland Park 25, which we had a 2013 bottling, which we tasted in 2019, was the only one Scotch to ever score 100 points at the ultimate spirit contest in New York. So it's a real claim to fame for Highland Park. No other Scotch since it, no other Scotch before it ever scored 100 with Paul Pacoult in New York. He's the founding father of the ultimate spirit contest, okay? And obviously it's held remotely now. So without further ado, I'm gonna pour mine. Anybody wants to feel the peat, they can. I'm gonna add a little water on the front end, a half of it, and then I'm going to take it neat after, okay? If you don't have a pipette, quarter a teaspoon. I just did 4 or 5 there, okay? All right, let's move on to the notes here. What we got for our tasting? There you go. Definitely lots of honey. And earth and heather. So I went nose, palate with water, palate without water, and then the finish. Generally, the finish here is generally without water. Does anybody get that spice on the nose? What is it? Pepper again?
But definitely a lot of caramel and coffee.
No popcorn? No? Maybe some more water? Maybe some more water? Lavender. Any lavender, anybody? It's got that floral, it's those floral, heathery notes. What's that? Salty. Yeah. I don't get as much peat on the nose with water than you get without water. So you'll get that peaty if it comes through. Remember now, we've kind of exhausted our mechanisms here. Our little palate nose is, we've worn it out a little bit tonight with 100, 90, 100, and 125 or 126. The first sip is pretty intense. Everybody at home? Public health warning. Please do not sue us. I don't want to hear about Morgan & Morgan in the morning, okay? One of my favorite smells ever is to go to a small town in Ireland and everybody's burning their peat. Generally in the west of Ireland, we burn peat. It's got the most amazing, fantastic smell. You'd also get it in Speyside. When in Speyside, in a colder night, when it just got colder, everybody's burning their peat, just like us in Ireland. They're heating their boilers to heat the radiators to heat their homes, their concrete homes. It's going to take a while. Ireland's kind of shut it down a little bit. We've almost made it, we're gone very, very renewable. We're about 25% renewable, mostly windmills around the coast of Ireland. Thank you. Cheers. Let's get back to our gorgeous whiskey here. Try it.
I was afraid to drink it neat after I had it with some water in it, but I tried it and the first sip was much better than I thought.
With the water.
I guess it was that first sip of 120.
Yeah, it just resets your, maybe just neutralizes, numbs them, right? You taste it after. Lots of caramel, right? Now, toffee. Does anybody get, everybody got, kind of argue a little bit about toffee? Toffee? Lots of toffee? Salty caramel. Yeah. Now, how about the finish? But it's, for me, it's a lovely, long, lingering, delicious. It'll stay with you. That's why when I said resonating warm in the color, you look at this and if you've ever tasted Island Park, it's still there, man. It's a monstrosity. How's it doing in the market? It's doing okay. It's owned by Edrinsons since 1999. And I really love Highland Park. It's one of my favorites, but I have to say, they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. I'm not going to be critical here. They kind of want to be a luxury whiskey, a luxury brand, but yet their whiskey is coming to us in this. I just feel like if you're going to be luxury, be luxury, like Waterford, like some of the great Irish whiskeys we've seen, like Macallan. It's owned by the same company that owns Macallan. And I feel like they're sort of not sure who they are. They're kind of wanting to be something that they're not. Now, their 12-year-old is a really great selling Highland Park 12, great selling whiskey. Is in that $35, $40 range price point. It's your go-to for them. But I'm not sure about their moving into the luxury brands, the 20s, the 25s. 30s. Hey, if anybody wants to take that peat and whack one of those rugby guys over the head, it's perfectly fine. I okayed it. There will not be retaliation. Price point, if we're buying it in Memphis, about $90. About the same as Waterford, which I feel like, which do you prefer, this or Waterford? Now remember now, out of the cask strength, you're getting more whiskey. You can water it down. You could basically get 20% more whiskey if you wanted to take it back to 40. That's adding 20% water, right? So tell me we're 10 minutes from finished. I might buy them around. So, you know, you're getting cask strength. It's premium quality. It's very iconic. I finished my glass on this now. I'm going to pour it for myself neat. I want to see what I haven't got tonight, which is weird tasting individually, is I haven't got the piece. It's passed me by. Which if you taste this by itself, the first thing you get almost everywhere, nose, palate, finish, piece. But because we've tasted some other stuff, it's not a lot of peat on it, is there? It's intriguing. On a peat level, where Lagavulin or Lefroy are up there in that phenol region of about 60, 70, this is in the 20. So it's low peat, Talisker, Oban, in and around there, okay? I'm going to have a little taste of this neat. Oh yeah, it you know, when it gets to winter, you want this. When there's ice on the road. Really? I was more worried about someone choking. I know you guys, everyone here is pretty experienced. I was thinking about this. Should I put a public health warning up? You know? So I'm guessing this is your favorite. Oh. Now I'm getting a bit more of the piece. Niece. Now I'm getting my piece. Niece. I don't get peat with the water. Although I added about 6 drops with my... Johnny, getting the peat now? Are you on these? Oh, it's delicious. So I said, what do you think of creme brulee? What do you think? That sugar, right? I thought that was a nice linger, I said, of smoke and peat and pepper. We couldn't break down the black or white. Yeah. And this is strictly, the finish for us was neat. I'm going to go out on a limb here and ask our Highland Park representative, when does this come to town? That's a question. I'm thinking, Ben, are you out there? I hope you're still there, Ben. You haven't passed out. You know when it's coming here? No. No, I was supposed to get 2 bottles for the tasting. And I was getting nervous last week. And I'm like, oh, my God. Guys, I don't have what you were going to come and taste tonight. We're tasting something else. It's kind of not really. I'd be very embarrassed. So we ended up buying it in New York and just shipping it down. Yeah.
Well, we actually don't have an ETA on it.
Normal. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been promised 1 case.
That was a question to Bennett. Looking forward to the reply. I'll let my
Hello?
folks here know when it's available
Can you hear
for
me?
sale. Could do better with the packaging. The ribbon around the top here is supposed to represent the band on the cask. I thought they went away from their Viking thing. I thought they should have embraced that a bit more. They're kind of like not really sure who they are for me. And I think they're a great distillery. And I can't wait to go there. I've been to the McKellen. They own the same owners. And that's like I call it Star Wars. You know, Star Wars. Yes, Bennett, could you give us unmute him there, guys? Bennett, you have the microphone.
Hello. Hey. Yeah.
Shawnee, I need my mic on, or my speaker on. Give me 1 sec, Bennett.
Okay.
And by the way, Bennett, you are being recorded.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up.
I'll change Okay, we're back. Bennett, can we hear you?
Are we good? Yeah, I can hear you. Are you guys hear me? Up. We good? You're on mute now. I can't hear you. We're good?
We're good.
Okay. Yeah, so far this season, I know I've talked to my coworker Kirk. We've been told we are getting 1 case of Highland Park cask strength, which means we're getting 6 bottles for probably the entire city. So they haven't made much. This is a very highly allocated item. So I'm glad you found some for the tasting.
Bennett, will you mute? So basically what he's saying is just, it's pretty much one and done. The plan for Highland Park, I never got into this, is release 1, release 2, release 3. They're going to change around the casks that it's aged in. They're going to stick with cask strength. And so we're going to get different variations of Highland Park cask strength. Its ratings to market were not great at first, but I actually quite like it. And I quite like it neat. I'm perfectly okay with it neat. You know, I just think if you're drinking a double, it's gonna kick your behind. I mean, you're gonna know about it early morning, okay?
And I think
Kirk,
this is one of those, I think too, this is one of those newer products that they're coming out with that they're basically on a test with it. But I can assure you, I really believe that Highland Park will make more cask strength whiskeys in the future, and they'll become more available for the country. So I don't see this being an item that is a one-time 6-pack for the whole city. This will be something that they introduce into their lineup that'll be more available for everyone to buy. It's just their first introduction to a cask strength bottle. DJ, you're still muted.
We don't do a lot of peat. Excuse me, Benny, you should mute. You know, it turns people off. So I do moderate peat. We did Talister. We'll do it Oban. We'll do this. I mean, if we turn a Lagavulin loose or a Lefroy, we'll say whoever wants to stay on, go in the back room. It's on the house, right? But really and truly in these tastings, we don't, you know, we want to keep everybody happy. This is about as peaty as we go. Or, you know, especially, and I don't mean to be any way, in my experience, well, to be honest, in my experience, inexperienced Scotch drinkers are really turned off by peat. They really are. They're inexperienced Scotch drinkers are very turned off by peat. Unless you've been drinking for a while and you've enjoyed it and you've trained your palate, they're turned off. And the idea that all Scotch is peaty, it's not. We've done 50 Scotches, and this is probably what, the third peaty Scotch we've ever done? Ardbeg, Brookslatty, and this third out of 50, and we've done 50 easy. And we've traversed the entire 6 regions, 5, 6, depending on who's asking. Speyside, Lowlands, Campbelltown, Islay, Highlands, and Island. For me, they're the 6. I feel like Island whiskey is a whiskey unto itself. So, but I don't know. I just I'm enjoying this more and more and more as I drink it. If you see it online, buy yourself a bottle. Serious. And play around with it. Drink it with a little bit more water. Drink it with a little less water. Drink it no water. You know? But now that we've had a few whiskeys, I'm enjoying it neat much better tonight than I am with water that I had by itself the last couple of nights. It's a whiskey truly like, probably don't need to drink anything else, you know? All right. We're getting close to our finish line here. Any questions? Anybody want to go to Orkney with me? The wife. We gave away a trip to Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. It's really funny. The guy just emailed me. I got emailed back. He emailed me last week. He goes, DJ, just checking in with you. I said, if you go to Ireland, it's a 14-day quarantine, and your trip's 5 days. Do you want to spend it in a hotel room? I thought we might wait till you could go, and because we give it to a travel agent who plans it out, and we go Guinness Factory, and sometimes go to DJ's hometown, and one of my family members would take you for a drive around with the car. And this guy's like, I don't know, I might want to go. I'm like, you're gonna have to quarantine.
In the hotel.
I was half thinking he might take the cash. We offer you cash as an alternate. You know what I mean? Guy comes back with COVID, and then I get it. Morgan & Morgan calling me, going, "Here we go again." So, but really enjoyed it. I love these whiskeys tonight, all three. I really would like everybody to give me the ratings. I'm going to count it in house, but I'm just going to ask for the ratings online. So we have a count. We always like a count.
DJ, I tell you, eating that brownie with caramel salt on it totally screwed up my palate. It had the salt and caramel.
Shawnee, I give Jeff back his money. You need to leave with a shepherd's pie.
What's that?
You need to leave with a shepherd's pie. Been thinking about that. Yeah. I'd like to know, and please do not be like, close your eyes if you have to. Whiskey number one, who had it as their favorite? Anybody here? Anybody? I'll take it. Whiskey number two, who had it as their favorite? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, whiskey number one, I just said. Whiskey number one, any takers? No? Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Whiskey number two. We're on to 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we got 2. Your arm up or down. Don't be shy. It's an Irish pub. Everybody's a friend till your tab comes. All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 for number 2. Okay. I'm only doing this because we're recording the show and I can. Whiskey number 3. 2, 3, 4, 5. Whiskey number 3. 6. So that would be the front runner right now. Whiskey number 1 was your second. Oh, we have somebody that said whiskey number 1. Oh man, I'm so happy. So I've never done a tasting where at least one whiskey wasn't somebody's favorite. I always consider that to be right? I picked them well, right? Well, we have somebody here. Hopefully they're still alive. Jason K. 1, 3, 2. 1 was their favorite. 3 was their second. 2. Hey, listen, everybody's different. That's the thing about this. That makes my night. That right there makes my night. We have a 3-2. We have a 3-1-2. Don't diss the Irish like that. We have a 2-1-3, Ireland. We have a 3-2-1. We have a 1-2-3. I love it. Thank you, Tyler. Awesome. Awesome. So right now we have 2 people have voted for. We have 2 votes online for number 1. I love it. And then let's count the 3s. 1. We have a few people got off. We had 18 online. 18 people online. It's leaning towards. I think it's leaning towards Highland Park by a sniff over the Irish, with Benjamin Chapman having 2 first plates, which is awesome. I love it. Thank you, Tyler. He just asked me, what should Memphis FC? I will tell you, Tyler, Memphis 901 FC needs to have a celebratory dram with me and you every time they win a game. Right? This doesn't happen very often. Sorry, excuse me, sorry. So maybe we'll come up with a selection and go, hey, this is what we're celebrating this one with. Could do that, right? You're the marketing guy, you tell me. But we had lots of 2s, but mostly 3s online, like here, which is beautiful. Yeah. Didn't get what yours 3? Yeah, beautiful. I would have said before tonight, 2, 3, 1. Tonight, sitting here, of course, your palate's just 3, 2, 1. I'm thinking I'm 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Highland Park first. Yeah, I mean, it's a great whiskey if you can get it. So, you know, that's part of what we do here, right? We don't want, I mean, unfortunately, I feel bad because I'm like, hey, you can go to Buster's and get, I don't get to say that during COVID because we've been doing a lot of whiskeys that are kind of off the beaten track, which is fun. I do feel like, but I've dissed bourbon a bit and I've dissed America a bit. So if anybody has suggestions, please. Good. Yes. Lucky 7. And they're right. Where are they out of? Lucky 7 Spirits Christmas edition, right?
Yeah, it's called Holiday Toast. It's this one right here.
Okay. I'm putting it in here because we're recording all this so I can go back.
Okay.
Holiday Toast. I did Blanton's on the chalkboard here with Glenfiddich Project XX, which you don't know about. Very interesting, very well liked. And then we finished it off with Gelston's rum edition from Ireland that's actually not available in the States. That flight there is, I said, you know, for my kids being born or whatever, 3 for $40. But it's a really nice flight. It's a really nice flight. The Blantons, I really like Blantons. Really like Blantons. That's kind of crazy. Now it's, what do they call it? It's, what's the word they use when they say Blantons is allocated? Yeah.